What is up guys, Andy Forresting Runner here and welcome back to another video, and today we're talking about top 5 common running mistakes that I see a lot of and how to avoid them. So running mistakes happen all the time to all of us, including myself, and the goal with these running mistakes is that we learn from them, we move on and we can become better runners because of it. We move into our new training blocks without making the same mistakes again. Now this video is going to be geared towards intermediate and advanced runners, but beginners, take note, because when you get to a stage where you feel like this is applicable to you, then bear in mind these points that we're about to talk about. If you're excited for today's video guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and let's kickstart with number 1. So the first point that I want to make, and I see a lot of, is not to increase intensity and volume at the same time. Now for a lot of people that's something that we all know not to do, but for a lot of people they don't. I certainly didn't know that a fair few years ago, and when I was training I was increasing both at the same time and it ended in injury. It's a very common thing to do when we ramp up the mileage, whether we're in marathon training or we just want to take the next step, but we also think that by doing that we increase the intensity as well. It's just not a good recipe for success. What we need to do is get the body adapted to the higher increase in volume or the biggest stress of intensity before then making that next step. As I said, I've been there, and a good example right now during my marathon training block with London is I am reaching to a new mileage goal. It is indeed around 75 miles per week. I really have only ever topped out at 70 before and mainly held between sort of 60 and 65. So this is a new stretch goal for me, but what I am making a point of not doing is having basically 3 sessions per week, 2 in midweek, and making a long run workout. I am trying to keep things relatively low intensity, and that's going to be the key for this particular training block. I want to carry it through so that my body can complete a full training block at a new higher level, so that when I come to do that level again it feels more comfortable and maybe I can tweak things moving forward. It's happened to me over the years doing 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, so on and so forth miles, and it should happen to you guys as well. So whether you're looking to increase your intensity or you're looking to increase your volume, whichever you want to do, make sure you make a point of doing whichever one it is without including the other one as well. Both is a recipe for disaster. So the second thing you want to avoid is that yo-yo or roller coaster mileage that we sometimes see. So a lot of times you might see someone, let's say, logging, I don't know, 50 miles one week, 30 the next, 45, 25, 60, and it's just a pattern of this. And obviously what our body needs for improvement in general all round getting stronger as runners is that consistency. Now let's be honest here, we all have lives, we're not professional runners, so our mileage per week is going to alter, it is going to vary depending on life stresses, life factors, and so we're not always going to be able to, I guess, keep the most consistent routine, but we can certainly do our best to be as consistent as we can throughout the weeks. And obviously progression is key, whether that's in sessions, whether that's in long runs, whatever it might be. We're always looking to either hold or at least progress as we go through towards our goal race. Yo-yo mileage, just all it ends up doing is putting more stress on your body when you have really big weeks, and then you're going to feel really fresh when it comes to those lower mileage weeks, and then when you come back up to a big week you're feeling so fresh, you're going to smash out a session feeling really, really good. And then the more likelihood is when you've got that bigger week you're doing that thing that I just talked about, which is mileage and intensity in the same week, and bam, you're going to end up with trouble. So avoiding that yo-yo roller coaster mileage is again something that I would seriously consider. And the third point that I want to make is all about running in different zones. What you want to avoid doing is avoid running in the same zone all the time. I'm going to use zones rather than paces because obviously our body only understands the effort that we put out. So let's talk terms of zones as like heart rates and stuff. You see a lot of people follow the 80-20 rule, and that's absolutely fine. Obviously that's a well documented way to progress. A lot of our mileage is easy, that's the 80%, and then we put some harder efforts in there for the 20. But what I do see a lot of is the 100% rule going on, which is obviously where people are just running at one pace all the time and they're wondering why they're not progressing. Now let's just clarify something here before we get any further with this point. If you're the type of runner that just likes to lace up, get out the door and enjoy the fact that you can put one foot in front of the other and you have no you have no dreams and goals of progressions and stuff like that, that's absolutely fine. That's brilliant, and that's exactly what you should do. There should be no pressure to do anything different. But if you're a runner that questions why you're not progressing when you're only running in one zone, then this is where it becomes applicable to you. Obviously, there's a time and a place to do certain types of runs, and obviously we do in our plans want to do more easy runs than we do faster stuff, but you do need to sprinkle in more of that speedier work, whether it's tempo zones. Let's talk heart rate zones. Zone 2, 3. 2 for me is moderate, 3 is sort of tempo, 4 is threshold, and 5 VO2 max. Let's keep it nice and stripped back and basic. If we're talking about those 5 zones, you do want to sprinkle a lot of that in week in, week out, sort of more of the zone 2 and 3, a little bit less of the 4 and 5, but it's all there to be merged together to be the winning formula. So in that respect, don't just run at one pace, don't just run in one zone, I should say. You do need to sprinkle in some other areas as well. And the fourth thing that you want to avoid doing, this is a personal opinion now, is you want to avoid using technology for each and every run. So what do I mean by that? Obviously, we've got our smartwatches, we've got our GPS watches, we've got our heart rate monitors, we've got our stride power pods. We've got all of this stuff at our fingertips where we can use and come back and analyze data and check everything we want to. It's incredible, and it's such an incredible thing that we have to help evolve our running. But we can very easily get sucked into that world of data and numbers and graphs and everything, and sometimes we completely lose perspective of actually what this sport is all about, which is about putting one foot in front of the other, appreciating that we're able to be fit and appreciating that we're able to get out there and run, because there are so many people that can't and will desperately do anything they could to be able to run, like yourself and me. So what I recommend with this sort of thing is just, especially on your easy runs, I do this on my easy runs in particular, and I've been really making an effort during this latest training block, is completely ignoring all data. I've turned auto lap off on my watch, so all I have is a start and a stop, and that's it. I don't worry about anything else. I don't look at pace, don't look at heart rate really. It just is kind of one of those things I glance at here and there, like a couple of times throughout the run, and that's it. It's a complete sort of detox from worrying, going, oh, what's that mile split? Oh, what's my heart rate? Oh, what's my power? I don't have to worry about it. Now, I find it useful to use that data during sessions and long runs and stuff. I do use it for there, but I do make sure that on my easier runs, I basically detox off technology. Just dial in to my thoughts, dial into my running, dial into my breathing, just appreciate the nature around me and just get out there and run. So I do really recommend that, because obviously technology does fail from time to time, and you do see sort of Strava comments and Strava posts on their runs of people saying technology failed, my run went to pot, my mind just went, had to stop the run, and you just think to yourself, but you wouldn't have to stop the run if you weren't so reliant on technology. So do make a point that on one run or 2 runs a week, you ditch the technology, you just press start stop on your watch, and that's it. And the fifth and final point that I want you guys to avoid doing, and again, this very much does come down to a personal opinion, but I've been there, I've done it, and I've come a cropper of it, is don't move the goal posts during training. Now, there is an exception to this, and that is a great example actually was Ben is running on YouTube. I know a lot of you guys follow him. He was training for the Stockholm Marathon. He was going for a sub 240. He was clearly miles better than a sub 240, and he proved that by running 228. But there was a massive kind of difference in his goal times compared to the paces and times he was running at relative ease. So obviously in that situation, moving the goalpost to something more sensible is fine. But here's a good example for you. If I go out there and set a certain pace for my marathon training, and I get halfway through my training block and it feels easy and comfortable, and I want to kind of step it up 3, 4, 5 seconds per mile, don't. I've done it, I've been there, it's a massive epic failure. In my perspective, and from what I've been through as a runner, don't move the goalposts. Actually, what is more important to do, and I'm going to give a bit of credit here to my previous coach, Chris, because he very much said this to me, and he says it to a lot of his athletes, and that is basically get that box ticked and then move on to the next goal. Because what happens is, a marathon is a great example. If you go and try and run a 3-hour marathon and you get training and you feel like you're on for a 2:55, so you adapt all of your paces and everything to 2:55, but then you blow up because you're not quite ready and you run a 3:10, you've not then ticked your 3-hour mark box. You now have to take an even bigger leap for your next marathon training block to go even quicker again. So actually what is more important is when you get there and you go, do you know what? I'm training for 3-hour pace. I'm running 2:55 pace. It feels good, but do you know what? I'm going to tick the 3-hour box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out there at 3-hour pace and feel good. And then the last 6 miles, if training really does pay off and training really does prove to be that I was in 2-hour 55 shape, then I'm going to have something in the tank for the last 10k, and I'll put the hammer down and I'll run a 2:59, a 2:58, a 2:57, and then move on from there. It's a mentality he had that kind of ingrained in me. I think it's a really valuable one. It's kind of what I'm thinking about right now during my current London block. A lot of the paces I'm running are relatively good, relatively comfortable, but I will not budge in terms of my goals and fitness and that sort of stuff. And I think it's really important because I've done it in the past. I've moved the goalposts and it's ended up in massive failure. So there we go. Those are my top 5 mistakes to avoid as a runner, especially for the more, as I said, intermediate to advanced runners. But beginners, take note, because I promise you will get to these points at some stage. So do bookmark the video and come back to it when you feel it might be applicable to you. I'd love to know what your common running mistakes are, or what you've come across of during your running time, and what mistakes you would advise other people to avoid. Get those in the comments below, share those thoughts, and let's get those comments being a great hub for the community to go and check out and read. Anyway, those are my thoughts on today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give this video a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Until then.